Good morning, everybody. What is it? It's July 11th. It's Thursday, and it's 8:30 in the morning on the West Coast. And I got my coffee, and it's still hot, so it's a great day. See, ask me anything, as if you hear some crazy sounds in the background, in just true Murphy's Law fashion, it's been like unusually hot up here in the Pacific Northwest, far hotter than normal. Like high 90s and just miserable. And I know that some places are worse than that, but for us, that's pretty bad. And of course, 2 days ago, our air conditioning system broke and some pipes started leaking through the ceiling in our garage. So that was really cool. So there's somebody up there right now in the crawl space banging around. So if you hear that, that's what it is. Okay, let's dive into the questions because, as always, they're awesome. So here we go. First one from Chris L. How do you know in creating an original workout that it is in fact original? Is there a database for reference? Do people worry about plagiarism in programming, et cetera, et cetera? Good question. How do you know for a fact that something is original? I guess the short answer is that you probably don't. People tend to know the more prolific, well-known, ubiquitous workouts in the space. But I mean, let's say that we created 15, 12, 9, 6, 3 of a thruster at 155 pounds paired with a ring muscle up. That's the first time that's popped into my head. Has somebody else done that? I don't know. So there's just that kind of stuff, and you might search the internet for it, but sometimes if you don't search exactly, you wrote a comma somewhere where there wasn't, or they listed the movements in a different order, or whatever it happened to be. This may or may not come up. So no, there's no really good way to do that. And it's been my experience that people are pretty cool about trying to give credit where credit is due if they actually believe that somebody else did it or whatnot. Let's see. I see somebody in the YouTube comments. Scottish G says, I was just about to finish work and then this notification came through. So I guess I'm staying in the office a bit longer. That's cool. All right. This one from Keith G. Why meters on the air bike instead of calories? And, what sort of formula do you use to calculate the conversions, et cetera, et cetera? So there is no one universal, worldwide, perfect, accepted by everybody conversion for every distance, every calorie, from the Echo bike to the Assault bike to the Concept 2 bike to some other bike that you might have to the ski erg to the rower to various types of rowers to there's a lot out there, and none of them are spot on and none of them are perfect, but they're all really, really darn close, and they all work for getting you fit. That's the thing. And no conversion is going to be perfect because running's different than rowing, and it's different than bike. Like, it's just different. So you try to get as close to the effort level and as close to the time domain at a given effort level or pace as possible. And some workouts will lend themselves better to calories, if we're talking like air bike, for example, versus meters. And so, for example, today's workout has meters in it, 10,000 meters. And that just worked perfectly, like visually, because if you look at how the numbers went from 25 strict handstand push-ups, 50 meters to the lunge, 75, so we're going 25, 50, 75. Well, what works nice after that? Something that looks like a 10 or 100, like a 1-0 sort of a thing. So 10K on the bike and then back down, 75, 50, 25. So that, using the air bike today and using a meters for it, worked beautifully. Now, I could have done the rough caloric output for that, and it would have worked well, but it would have gotten maybe to about the same result, but it wouldn't have looked as beautiful on paper. And so just some of these nice aesthetic things is I want to create a workout, my number one priority is the workout has to be um, effective. Period. End of story. It has to be effective. Then I would also like the workout to not look like hot garbage on the paper. Like I would like it to be an incredibly effective workout, but that's also beautifully appealing, elegant, has some mathematical beauty to it as well. I'd love for all of those things to have some interplay, and that's when it's really happy to me. Some other things to consider, like, so for example, roughly speaking, a 400-meter run would be, roughly speaking, equivalent to 500 meters on a rower and about 1,200 meters on the air bike. Now, those things, you have to make certain assumptions, right? Because who's the athlete that like is that average? So if we just say, like, on average, somebody can run an 8-minute mile. Now, I know some people in the audience just dropped dead because that would be like their lifetime PR, and other people, that's laughably slow for them. But you have to draw some sort of a line and a metric as the quote unquote standard. So if we're assuming a ballpark 8-minute mile, and that's not at a maximal effort. That's like an effort that you can sustain for a few miles. It's a sustained effort. That's 2 minutes per 400. So that's what you expect from a run at a moderate to just slightly uncomfortable yet sustainable pace. Then you transfer that to the rower, on a 500-meter row, roughly about 2 minutes. Okay, so you're very close in the ballpark there. And then if you hop on the bike and you try to replicate that same effort level for that same time domain, you're going to come to about 1,200 meters-ish. And so that number works well there as well. Now, what's interesting is if you did that on the Echo bike, let's say that was about a 60 for a cadence, or revolutions per minute. Sustained for a couple minutes will put you right around 1,200 meters. It's probably going to put you right around 24 calories as well. So now you get the calorie equivalent of what that distance on the bike was that you're replicating a 400-meter run or a 500-meter row, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't mean you can always just use 24 calories instead of 1,200 meters in the rower, because calories can be accumulated wildly different than meters, which is why that has to be taken into account as well. So, for example, if I said, okay, if you pedal at 60 RPMs for 2 minutes on the air bike, on the Rogue Echo bike, you're going to get about 1,200 meters. Fair? And about 2,400 calories. Well, if it was linear, and it is for the meters, but it's not for the calories. If it was linear, well, if I doubled my pace, I now had the ability to pedal, instead of at 60 RPMs for 2 minutes, I'm going to pedal at 120 RPMs for 2 minutes. I will go twice as far. Instead of going 1,200 meters, I will go 2,400 meters. But it doesn't work that way in calories. The 24 calories won't just double to 48 calories. You will do a huge number of calories, wildly more than double. And so you have to take that into account as well, because there's some people that are such beasts on the Rogue Echo bike that they could maybe mash the pedals, accumulate far more calories, and get onto something else quicker. Sometimes calories work. Sometimes it's better to go meters. That's why, like, for the Rogue Echo Bike Challenge, you had some hosses on the Rogue Echo Bike doing 50 calories in sub 1 minute. Some people like I don't want to get the times wrong, but like, were some people like around 30 seconds? Like, there's some ridiculous times for 50 calories. Okay, so 50 calories would be almost the equivalent, if it takes 24 calories to do 1,200 meters, which is replicating a 400-meter run. Sorry, I'm throwing a lot of numbers out there right now. Somebody's not going to, if they can do 50 calories in 30 seconds on the Rogue Echo bike, they're not going to run 800 meters in 30 seconds, right? Not even in a rocket ship. So there are some things that translate well and some things that don't, and all of those things have to be taken into consideration. So also, the guy that just is doing my HVAC system just texted me. And I'm going to text him back. Thank you, sir, because he fixed it. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's get back to this stuff. If you want to dive in more to this, Keith, we did a whole episode about this. I believe it's Linchpin Conversations number 278, all about calories and things like that on the bike. Okay, Let's see. Aaron S. Purely out of curiosity, why rest days on Thursdays and Sundays? Yeah, it's just one of those cycles, or schedules is the word that I'm looking for, that was thrown around over the many, many years. Like it was 3 on, 1 off that just was created because some people thought that worked well. Um, Always also thrown out at the same time if that like kind of rotating random schedule that you didn't know in 2 weeks which days were going to fall on which didn't work well for you. You could, of course, do 5 on, 2 off, work out Monday through Friday, take the weekends totally off. That schedule was wonderful because it was set and you could plan your life around it. The downfalls of that schedule was for most normal humans, 5 days of fitness in a row was going to lead to less than ideal results on the last couple of days because you didn't get a rest day and they're just going to become a slog, and that's not ideal. But if that's what the only thing that life allowed you to do, life doesn't care. So you do what you can. But a beautiful combination of the two, of giving the athlete appropriate work to rest ratios of how many training days you get to a rest day, while still having a set fixed schedule that you can actually plan your life as a human being. The most ideal thing in the world that I've come across is that 3 on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on, Thursday rest day, Friday, Saturday workout, Sunday rest day. A beautiful, beautiful um, compromise of all things that you could ask for. Let's see. Carl L. I'm about 8 months into Linchpin and just wanted to say thank you for the awesome programming and also the amazing athletes for being a 5-star and supportive community. Awesome. For the workout, yesterday's workout, was it yesterday? The single unders and the power clean and jerks at 115 and 75. Something like Grace, how do I improve my engine or resiliency to stay on the bar longer and take less breaks? My breathing control is typically the first to fall apart. I have no problem with the movements going over or going overhead. Is it better with a reduced load or to build cardio capacity from there, or to modify something like hanging power cleans with the full load, push the cardio, etc., etc.? So, without a couple other data points, Carl, and some other things for you, the short answer, as unsatisfying as this may be, is what you're currently doing will help that, meaning improving your overall fitness, your top end strength, your muscular stamina, your cardiorespiratory endurance, the whole 9 yards, short, medium, and long. All of the things that we do all the time at Linchpin will translate to that. But getting back to your point here, you feel that it's the breathing, and I think that's. Oh, I can almost feel a rabbit hole coming. I think that's what so many people don't get. They think just putting weight on their back squat will save them. Just putting weight on my 1 rep max clean and jerk will save me and give me a faster grace. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to hurt. But if you think that's what's going to save you, you're probably incorrect. Now, this is an oversimplification, okay? So pardon me. Talking about most people under most circumstances most of the time. But when you see something in a submaximal load, something like a grace or a mixed modality workout, a couplet or a triplet, right, where the load is relatively speaking manageable, and the sets are doable or just slightly more than you would want to do. Usually, what you see when the athlete has to stop is not a muscular failure, meaning it's not that you didn't have the strength to do one more power clean. It's a cardiorespiratory failure where your body's ability to process oxygen to get it to that musculature so that you can continue with the workout has reached its limits, and you need to rest to get more air. That's what happens, because it's not like a, a muscular failure and not a cardiorespiratory failure would look different. It would be you're going and going and going in that workout or in grace, and you tried to do power clean number 21 on grace, but it was so heavy you couldn't lift the weight and you failed the power clean because it was too heavy. That's not what happens, is it? It's somebody bent over at the waist. They did the last power clean right before they had to drop the barbell just fine, but they're just hyperventilating and need to catch their breath. It's a cardiorespiratory failure, which is, again, is something that we get at Linchpin. And I think the heavy lift plus Metcon is going to save my life sort of a thing, is where people are missing the mark. Well, I'm just going to do a squat cycle, and then when I put 20 more pounds on my squat, I'm going to crush these workouts. No, you're not. No, you are not. Conditioning, 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 conditioning. You got to do everything else. Heavy days are mission critical. Calisthenic days are critical. Build the top in. Heavy days at high heart rate. Like, yes, all of it. But what does not get the respect it deserves is conditioning. That is what made somebody like Chris Spieler so ferociously dangerous and able to fight above his weight class for so long. His top end numbers, he was never going to win a top end battle with anybody on lifts, ever, ever, ever. He could move moderately heavy loads like a savage and moderate loads and light loads like a savage. And it probably had to do with his years of being a wrestler and having absolutely insane conditioning. And so when everybody else had to drop the barbell to catch their breath, he did not. And even though it was a heavier weight for him, the conditioning saved the day. And we see this all the time. And that's why we do not shy away from conditioning at Linchpin. So, yeah. So conditioning will save you. But also what you can do, Carl, after tricking me to go down that rabbit hole a little bit, you could also, there's the conditioning aspect, which I just said, but then there's also some, whatever is the overplayed word, mental toughness, et cetera, the ability to suffer. Because you might be able to go a little bit further, but it just hurts really bad. It's not unsafe. We're not looking for anybody to do anything unsafe, but it's just your body feels like it's on fire. And when that happens, most normal people pause, and you can condition yourself to walk into the fire a little bit. And you might be able to do something on workouts like this by freeing yourself from the goal times. Screw the goal times. Don't worry about it. You're going to get in a workout that's going to be as much for your body as your mind. And maybe you're going to say, hey, I know that on Grace, quick singles is my fastest Grace time. Okay, cool. Let's not worry about your fastest Grace time today. We have a different goal. It's to improve your ability to hang on and suffer with the barbell. So you're going to do Grace in 3 sets of 10. Okay. And if that means you need to rest 2 minutes between each one of those 3 sets of 10 touch and goes, well, then you need to rest 2 minutes. But I bet each one of those sets of 10, if you rode that line and found that razor's edge for you, is going to feel like a mini Grace. It's going to feel like you're dancing with the devil. And exposure to that is a wonderful thing. And then maybe if Grace comes around next time, you know what you tell yourself? Okay, because you tracked your data, I'm going to do that the same way again. But instead of allowing myself 2 minutes rest, I'm just going to be a minute 45 or 90 seconds or whatever makes sense. Or maybe 3 sets of 10 is too much. You're going to do 6 sets of 5, 5 sets of 6, but play that mental game of this is the plan today. The clock's going to run. It's not going to be a PR. That's okay. I'm still going to be doing a 30 clean and jerks. There's plenty of fitness involved in that, but I have a different goal today. And so that can help you. Okay, let's see. Samuel, what's the main difference between Linchpin and VNR programming on btwb? Myself and Boz, we don't program varied not random. That's just like a free track on Beyond the Whiteboard that has existed forever. I know that's probably confusing to folks since our podcast is varied not random. They probably think that we create that program, but we don't. We never have. It's just a free track for anyone who wants it. And Linchpin is, well, what's the difference between that and Linchpin? Linchpin, that's my heart and soul create methodology, how I do it, for time, not for time, modulating intensity, heavy days at a high heart rate, strict work, like all that stuff. World's greatest community. It's all part of Linchpin there. Okay, let's see. Sarah J, any input on what would be helpful to include as notes in btwb after each workout? The notes section is awesome. So as you post on btwb, like Sarah said, there's a notes section, and I'll write down anything from if it's a heavy day, maybe the rest periods that I took, do I felt that was enough or not enough? Anything I learned during my warm up? Do I feel like, okay, I successfully did this loading for a 5x5 back squat, let's say? Uh, do I feel like that was right where I should have been? Or maybe a little note to say I should bump it up by 10 pounds next time, or whatever it happens to be. And if it's in a mixed modality sort of a workout, I might say, what was the sticky point of the workout for myself? Or this round felt this compared to this, or I rushed the warm up, wish that I hadn't rushed the warm up, or, well, kind of like getting back to um, Carl's question. You might put in the notes section, like, hey, I did Grace today, and I got my lifetime worst Grace time on the face of the earth. Huge red bar under Grace, right? Sky is falling. But what did you put in the notes? I went into Grace today attempting to do it as 3 sets of 10 with 2 minutes rest in between, knowing that my time was going to suck, but a fast time was not my goal today. Developing competency of barbell cycling and enduring that particular agony, which is challenging for me, was my goal. Now, of course, that's probably a book. You wouldn't want to write all that in your notes, but that would be a great use of the notes section as well. Okay. Um, James W. Just bought some drop mats and I use them on the single unders clean and jerk workout. Is the lesser range of motion by the bar being slightly higher off the ground an issue? Any workarounds if needed? Well, I mean, there's no way around it, right? In the cold, emotionless, heartless world of mathematics and physics, if the bar is now 6 inches higher off the ground, that's less work each rep. It is what it is. Will you still get ferociously fast, fit, and strong? Of course. And if just you're in a situation in life with neighbors, babies, garage, floor, whatever it happens to be, that you're like, well, I either have to do this version of clean and jerks, for example, with these crash mats, or I never clean and jerk for my entire life. Easiest choice in the world. Enjoy the mats, my friend, and do the clean and jerks because the fitness is worth it. Now, you could also use that as the btwb note section to say that you did that. And it could also be depending upon whether the loading on the bar is something that you feel comfortable cycling or not cycling. So, for example, if it's a heavy load and you're going to drop it from overhead and guide it down, don't be safe. Be safe, obviously. Drop it and guide it down, then the crash pads are great. And a lot of people will use that as they drop it from overhead, but then they'll roll it off the crash pads onto like a mat or the floor for the next rep that they pull from the floor. Then they'll drop it onto the crash pads. And so that might be a good middle ground there as well for you to use. And if it's something that you can hold on to, and I'm not sure if that clean and jerk workout from a couple of days ago, the 115 for the men and 75 pounds for the women, was something you could hold on to. But if so, then that's exactly what you could do. Maybe you can cycle that barbell, not having to use the crash pads if you're, just kissing the floor there, little extra control under the eccentric phase right there, make you a monster. And then when you get to that rep that's overhead and you're like, I'm dropping this sucker, then it's dropped onto the crash pad. So you've got some options there. Let's see. Samuel. Yeah, thanks for clearing it up. It was confusing indeed. Starting Linchpin subscription right now. Very cool. Welcome aboard, my friend. And I don't know if you are on, when you join Linchpin, you'll get into the btwb app, and there's a Linchpin squad in btwb. So you can get involved there with the community, say hello, amazing people. We also have a private Facebook group, and it's most of Facebook, I think, is toxic trash. But if you're into Facebook, check it out. It's amazing. And we've even had people that the only thing that they do on Facebook is the Linchpin private group. Okay, let's see. Those were the questions from Facebook. So now I'm going into the btwb app to get the ones from there. Okay. From Cat A, how to balance general fitness with skilled sport practice. I've taken up figure skating as an adult. First of all, wow, that's impressive. Talk about coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance. Wow. And isn't it amazing how something can just stick in your head? I hear the term figure skating, and what immediately pops into my mind? Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding. Okay. I am on the ice 3 to 4 days a week for 6 hours. What? Oh, is it 6 hours each day or 6 hours a week? 3 to 4 days slash 6 hours a week. Okay, I think it's 6 hours a week. Gotcha. Still, that's a lot. I've been skating better since joining Linchpin and getting more generally fit. Great news. But I'm limited by how much my body can handle working out in a day and still be functioning on the alternate days. Should I double up on certain days? What about rest days, et cetera, et cetera? So, first of all, you're living what people are supposed to do. In an ideal world, we wouldn't be doing everything we're doing in the gym just to be better at the gym. It would be because you get to apply this hard earned fitness, this hard earned strength and conditioning in some sort of real world application. Figure skating, soccer, baseball, cycling, mixed martial arts, working on a farm, doing yard work, running around with your kids. And don't get me wrong, if you don't have a pursuit like that and you are just in the gym to get better at being in the gym, that's a noble effort because you're avoiding, ideally, an unhealthy lifestyle. You're going to be able to live independently for a very long time, hopefully avoiding chronic disease by the nutrition choices to the best of your ability that you're making. So it's a noble pursuit, but using it as your GPP for sport is fantastic. And depending upon the demands of each sport, whether it's rugby or figure skating or whatever, you're going to have to do a bit of experimentation and find out where's that sweet spot for you. How many days a week of your sport? What are the demands of that sport? I'm going to assume that it's more lower body and cardiorespiratory demanding than upper body, like pressing demanding. So again, each sport has its unique demands. And then how many days of working out and training, linchpin, can you get away with? And which is your priority? There's the key. If figure skating or whatever your sport is the dominant priority, then you should be okay with deprioritizing your time in the gym and your results in the gym. You're still going to do it, but you don't want that to negatively affect what you have identified as the more important thing, which potentially is the figure skating. The other could be true. Hey, I play in a men's adult soccer league. It's just for funsies, gets me out of the house, rubbing elbows with some people again. It's a good time, and that's all it's going to be it's just a pastime. Whatever happens, happens. My main focus is still, I want to be a monster in the gym. Okay, well, I'm going to prioritize in a different way, and I'm going to favor what's going on in the gym, and I'm not going to be super upset if I walk out onto the soccer field with legs that are a bit tired because of what I did the day before, because the soccer game is not as important to me as what I'm doing in the gym, compared to I take it super seriously and we want to win this soccer game this weekend. And I look at what's going on with the upcoming workouts, and I'm going to modify them as needed. Stand by 1 second here. Okay. Yeah. I can get it. Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm back. Again, there's work being done in our house because we had an HVAC system leak. So I had to let them know it's all good. So that's it. We also did and I don't know if your skating has an on season and an off season, but that would play into it as well. But it's just one of those things where play with it and find what's the sweet spot that does and doesn't affect negatively what you have going on in the ice. That could be 2 workouts a week, could be 3 workouts a week, could be 1 workout a week, could be moving around the rest days and all that good stuff. But even if you're just doing 3 workouts a week, 3 deliberate, intentional choices of the linchpin workouts, and again, as I always say, as long as you're not eating like a drunken pirate, will provide you a tremendous amount of fitness. And there's a full conversation, linchpin conversations we did entitled Help. I can only work out 3 days a week, or I can only do 3 workouts a week, something like that. And it details, if you only have to choose 3, looking at the upcoming week's workouts, how would you make that selection? So you might find that helpful as well. Okay, Kayla N. I am so lost with handstand anything. I can do handstand stuff against the wall, but any type of control of my legs or holding a freestanding handstand for longer than a second is almost impossible for me. Are there drills that I can do to work on that control and balance? Okay, so yes, there's a ton, but here's a couple simple ones that doesn't really require any gear. And first of all, what you said gives me the confidence that you could try these because you obviously, hopefully, this goes without saying, but you wouldn't want to be trying this if you didn't have like a rock solid support position upside down in the handstand push-up, the upper body strength to know that you're not going to crumble and just bonk your head on the ground. So sounds like that's not an issue for you. It's just a balance when you get away from the wall. So one of the first things that I would try is, let's say you kick up against the wall in a handstand push-up, and you're touching the wall to some degree. Try kicking up against the wall, maybe um, give yourself about 6 inches farther distance away from the wall. Play with that distance a little bit, but you would love to have it so that when you are vertical, right? Here's the wall, here's you. You're vertical next to the wall, that you can, instead of being straight up and down, you can bend one of your feet, bend your leg at the knee and have that foot, the toe of that foot just touching the wall. And then you want to just slowly start to try to remove your foot from that wall and just try to hold that. Now, if you fall over, you can just kick back down to the handstand. If you go to the wall, you're not super far from the wall, so you're not going to crumble there either. But the goal is bending your knee at 90 degrees, having that toe just touch the wall, and you want to try to modulate that body position little by little using less foot and having your central nervous system learn and take over where that balance point is. And of course, that's going to come through a lot of practice, a lot of repetitions, and a lot of frustration. But that's a simple, easy, awesome way that you can work in a few times a week as part of your warm up or cool down to get to what you're talking about. Another thing that you could do as well is people will start to, as they work on their like handstand walk, they'll be facing a wall, walking towards the wall, kick into a handstand, maybe 3-5 feet away from the wall or whatnot at the right distance, that and then try to handstand walk. And as they start to maybe go over, they're still relatively close to the wall, they'll catch the wall. They won't just tumble over. And if they have to kick back the other way, they will. But you obviously need to nail that distance to make sure that you're doing it. But that's also a very common thing as well. The first thing I would try is at bending the knee at 90 degrees. It's a great, no fancy gear required sort of a thing to do. Okay, let's see. Rakesh. Before joining Linchpin, I was incorporating sled. Oh, what's sled? Standby. Let's see. Tire flips in the programming, and maybe some hitting with a sledgehammer. How could I incorporate that into Linchpin programming? So first of all, both of those are super fun. If you got a big old tire and a sledgehammer that you can just whack it with, have an absolute blast. Certainly a functional movement. There's no way around that. And also one of those things where you won't see them programmed for various reasons. Well, first of all, most people just don't have a huge tractor tire and a sledgehammer. But the other thing is, it's tough to say to some degree that everyone's doing the same amount of work, right? If there's 100 kilograms on a bar and everybody picks up that weight, everybody picked up 100 kilograms of weight, did the same work. Now, I know some people might be taller or shorter, and so somebody did more work. I get that. We're speaking generally here. Everybody ran 400 meters. We covered the same distance. Yes, your body weight and stuff dictate. Gotcha. But we covered the same distance. But there could be, let's say, 20, pardon me, 21:15:9 of hit the tire with the sledgehammer pull-ups. There's the workout. You might put your heart and soul, and we both have the same weight sledgehammer. You might put your heart and soul into every swing of that hammer. Bang, bang, so hard and demanding. And I just kind of let it fall. Ding, ding. Well, I hit it 21 times too. And I kind of moved it through the same arc that you did, same range of motion as you did, but I didn't work anywhere near as hard as you do. So there's some challenges to putting something like that in. And I'm not saying that it has no value. Please don't dictate it, take it that way. But there are some considerations like that. But if you have that gear and you like it, you could throw it in every now and then as like some fun accessory piece if you wanted to. Go whack the heck out of that thing. And tire flips could be a great thing depending upon the weight of the tire that you have and whatnot. It could be anything from, a deadlift to a power clean would be great things for you to look at the workout of the day and feel authorized to look at that big tractor tire that you get in the side yard or your garage or wherever and flip that sucker. So have fun with it for sure. As a matter of fact, there's a place down the road from me that like gives away tractor tires. And every time I drive by it, I think to myself, like, man, I should just grab one of those, and just stick it in the backyard. But I feel like if I accumulated any more just junk, I would hear from it, from Emily. Okay, let's go. What do we got? Two more. This one is from Mike M. Been doing CrossFit for over 12 years. Good for you, my friend. In the last few years, he's a 47-year-old male. In the last few years, I've started substituting push press for handstand push-ups, and now I don't do handstand push-ups anymore. While I can do handstand push-ups, it just seems that this is one of the more unsafe, potentially, movements, as I just see lots of people using their heads as pogo sticks. I know they are not identical movements, but they are close. Why do handstand push-ups at all? Mike, awesome question. So, first of all, let's just say you don't ever have to do handstand push-ups for the rest of your life, regardless of whether you're in your 40s or not, and you can be ferociously fit, fast, and strong, and probably never notice that you didn't do them, generally speaking, unless you go to an artificially man-made fitness competition. There's the real truth. The other part is you're right. Like so many things in the world, they can be done well and they can be done poorly. Absolutely. Like so many things, so many movements, even outside of fitness, things that you can abuse and use in an idiotic fashion. They get a bad rap, or you can use those same tools well. So, yes, if you're doing handstand push ups, nobody should be just pogo sticking the head off the ground. And sadly, it does happen. You're right. And I think you probably noticed over the evolution in the years at Linchpin. I think if you rewound the clock years ago when handstand push-ups came up, they'd probably just say handstand push-ups, which generally speaking leads to a, hey, you can do these kipping. And I think you'd probably notice like when they're programmed these days, they'll either say strict or there'll be like some little asterisk or note that says, like, please do them strict if possible, because I'm in agreement with you. I think it's a fine movement and it's a wonderful piece of variance to get somebody upside down and outside their comfort zone and press in a different direction, but doing it in a controlled fashion, I think that's the way to do it 100%. But here's the other, like my wife who's a lifelong gymnast for years, kept her handstand push-ups, and I'm gonna get myself in trouble right now. How old is she? I'm not really sure how old she is. I think she's 42. And she's 42, and when handstand push-ups come up these days, she'll do them, but she doesn't kip anymore. The days of kipping are gone. Every single one's strict. And if that means they have to get broken up more, they get broken up more, but everything is done under complete control. So, but here's, like I said, if they don't treat you well for whatever reason, and handstand push-ups never treated me well, as I've been open about, I have a terrible overhead position. And to get into the position for a handstand push-up, I had to force it. And it was more pain than benefit. And sadly, I did them for far too long because I was stupid, stubborn, and had an ego, and hadn't yet understood that who cares if something is prescribed? Who cares if it's a CrossFit benchmark workout? Who cares? Like doing it as prescribed, of feeling the need to just write it as prescribed on a leaderboard, yet you hurt your body That's an unintelligent trade-off. And I was stupid enough to do that for a long period of time. So try to let people know now exactly what you're saying is perfectly fine. Like, let's look at the workout. Let's look at the intended stimulus. It's got strict handstand push-ups in it. Yes, it's inverted, right? But generally speaking, it's just a body weight overhead press, so to speak, a body weight movement that's an overhead press. And you're going to substitute that out for push press. You're going to be fine. Now, if it's a strict handstand push-ups, I wouldn't substitute it for a push press. I would substitute it for a strict shoulder press because therefore you will be mimicking it better. And maybe you could even up the spice level with a strict shoulder press with a pair of dumbbells or a pair of kettlebells and things like that. So you'll be totally good to go. And it's one of those things where you're not going to find handstand push-ups in the real world, right? Like functional movements found in the real world. So why do them? Well, you're probably not going to do a double under in the real world either. You're probably not going to do a squat snatch in the real world either. Um, Most of us don't find ourselves rowing unless we're evading some horrific thing on an island. And so, but there are things that have benefit, physical, athletic, power production, central nervous system development benefit that maybe even though they're not found in everyday life, but those movements also give us not only improved strength and conditioning, but lend themselves well to doing life's activities better. And somebody, generally speaking, who has a more developed central nervous system, senses of balance, is going to be able to do simpler things quite well also. But the inverse isn't true. Like, I'm really good at simple things. That means I can do complicated things. Not necessarily. So, removing ego, embracing scaling, making intelligent decisions, not doing things that are painful, but appropriately challenging yourself. And as you progress over the decades, some of those things might get removed. That's okay. You maintain as much complexity with regards to the skill level of movements as you can because it's challenging, not painful or dumb, but it's just for wherever you are in your fitness journey, challenging. And if it gets to some point that, again, a couple of those drop off, well, then a couple of them drop off, but you try to maintain as much as you can for as long as you can. That, my friend, that's the game. And that's the journey that we're all on. Okay. Final one from Brandon A. Have you been on a road trip / vacation where you have taken your own exercise equipment? What did you take? Brandon, it's funny that you ask, my friend. Starting tomorrow, we are going on like a family vacation, a little road trip with Emily's family, her parents and her sisters. It'll be a fair group of people that have gone and rented a hotel, not a hotel, an Airbnb, and we're going to have a blast. It's going to be about 7 days long. So I've been jumping through my butt to get ahead on all the stuff that I have to do for Linchpin so that I hear people talking about being quote unquote present on vacations. Um, that's not one of my strong suits. So I've tried really hard to get ahead so that I can be present. Anyway, so there's probably not going to be an Ask Me Anything next week because we're going to be on vacation. What was I going to say? Oh, your question. So my goal, because we're driving there, not flying in a plane, is to just have in the back of the car one set of dumbbells and a jump rope. I'll probably bring my heavy rope, and that's it. If there's enough room, I'll bring 2 pairs of dumbbells. If I can bring a pair of 50-pound dumbbells and a pair of 35-pound dumbbells and then a heavy jump rope, I'll be totally set. If I don't have the room and I can only bring either a pair of 50-pound dumbbells or a pair of 35s, I'll probably bring the pair of 35-pound dumbbells and the heavy jump rope. And that's that. And again, if you have developed your strength and conditioning IQ, if you just packed a kettlebell, you could do a ton with just a single kettlebell, and so you would be good to go. But yeah, I'm going to try to take a little bit of gear. So that's it. All right, everybody. What is today? Today's Thursday. I also don't know if whether or not I might not do the rest day today and I might work out today because we're traveling tomorrow and it's going to get messed up. So we'll see what happens. I might massage my schedule a bit this week. But all right, thanks, Linchpin. Thanks for being awesome. Enjoy your rest day, and we will talk soon.